Okay, we're live. We're live.
Hello, Tommy.
Hello.
You're a
Welcome.
pinball wizard. You must be a freak.
I already know this is going to be a fun interview. Just we've
Oh my
talked
gosh.
a little bit before, and you've already
Oh.
made me cry laughing. So this is going to be fun.
The
I'm gonna.
supplemental tea time, the one at 7:30. It's not 3:30. It's not tea and crumpets. It's what are oh, it's scrumpies and whatnots. For those of you that work postal packages or something. Whatever. Anyway.
I'd like to
La la
welcome you
la.
to the show,
Oh my god,
Dana
thank you for having
Louise.
me.
How are you? Welcome to Let's Get Freaky podcast. I'm excited to have you here. We're
I
we're in
know.
Minnesota tonight. That's correct.
Yes, yes, yes. The Mississippi, the mighty Mississippi, for those of you like, I mean, let me tell you, for those of you in Britannia, you pretty much know everything about the United States, and we know squat, like most people. I'm just gonna say, but did you know where we divided the whole United States in half, or whatever God did, or whatever?
Hmm.
That the beginning of that is where I live, Minnesota,
Okay.
Mississippi River that runs down to Louisiana. Yes, the
Nice.
river. Yes. La la la.
So, you're an author, you are a contactee, a public speaker. Um, what have I missed? Tell us about
I
yourself.
don't know. I'm a weirdo. Oh, okay. So, yeah, I mean, like, I've had a lot of things in my life, and I just wanted to be like the regular mom down the end of the block. I just wanted to like have tea and crumpets and whatever. And no, that has not been my life because when I was a baby, an infant, like in diapers, like the gray aliens started to show up and all this kind of things. Okay, just a little background on me. I'll give it 2 seconds. Um, and then I was about 8 years old. My parents took me to an airport and we walked out on a tarmac and legit a little voice said to me, "Keep this name tag. Here's the name tag. I can't see me, but you can see me." I don't even know. Maybe I can see me. Can I like, I'm sorry, people. I'm
Yeah,
gonna kind of
no,
like
I can
wiggle.
see it.
No, I can't see it. I'm on the Zoom thing. I'm a boomer, people. I have a hard time with technology. But anyway, so it the date and the place and all these things. I mean, you could look it up on my website or whatever.
Hmm.
And it just says, special guest, this presidential visit. And then here I'm 8 years old and up rolls Air Force One and out pops Pat Nixon and Tricky Dick Richard, for those of you who are probably your age that might not understand who Tricky Dick was, because like I'm super old and like I don't think young people know anymore who Tricky Dick is. Richard Nixon. So this was a presidential visit, and Pat Nixon rolls up and hands me a long stem red rose. I wrote a book. It was called, oh, this is gonna sound weird, but anyway, when I was writing my book, like a lot of my old memories started to bubble up because I suppressed them all. Um, and Okay, so there's a lot of suppressed memories, but there's also a little voice that talks to me. I don't want to say it's a little voice because it's probably God or an angel or my higher self, but it's I vetted it, it's trustworthy. But anyway, so the voice said to me, "Hey, why don't you go to the internet and look up the presidential diary?" And then Dana is like, "What? There's a presidential diary?" And the voice is like, "Yeah." So I looked it up, and sure enough, Pat Nixon is not even on the manifest for the flights for that day. So if you're into the whole Illuminati thing and the reptiles and all this kind of weird stuff, um, yeah, you can go down that rabbit hole. So the first lady came out of a Air Force One and handed me a long stem red rose, which might be sub rosa,
Hmm.
and she was not on the manifest. So that I thought that
Wow.
was curious and
What
curious and
what
got
was you
curiouser.
what was you doing there at 8 years old?
My parents took me out of whatever grade. What grade are you in? First grade, second grade? I don't even know. They brought me to they just I'm in elementary school. They just brought me down an hour and a half away to this airport. And I stood there on the tarmac, and then one man was like, I love it when people try to like say like I'm delusional or something, because most everything I've ever gone through, and this is what I love about my about who and how I am, is that I've had witnesses.
Mhm.
And I always question that. Growing up, I'm like, oh God, why are all these witnesses? And it's like, because you wouldn't believe it, and nobody else would believe it if you didn't have witnesses. Anyway, so here I am, and this one guy's like, oh, like that's delusional. I'm like, hey, I got the name tag, which you could, I don't know if you want to take the paper and whatever they do to paper to say it was from whatever timeline or whatever, vet it somehow. But I also was a bunch of like the media came up to me as a little girl, and so I was on the radio and all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of like, yeah, that
Wow.
happened, yeah, that happened. But it was excuse me, I had a cucumber earlier, and
That's cool. So
you know
so
what?
what
I'm a bit older, so they said burpless cucumbers.
yeah.
I mean, but now I'm kind of getting this whole burp thing with cucumbers. Anyway, so
So
I know
was you there to see the president? Was you there to meet the president? Like, did your mum and
I
dad
was
know?
there to stand in a line of aqua velva and whatever, and polyester. I had no idea I was there. My parents were involved in a lot of political things.
Mhm.
And okay, so gosh, like I don't know how much time we have, but I want to like
We've got
tell your
hours.
people
We've got
like,
hours.
okay, but I mean like um I wrote my book, and about a year afterwards, a man came up or called me, and then he said, oh, I got this file on your dad. And he literally disclosed to me, I think this man was ex-CIA, um, that my dad was involved with NASA and Wright Patterson and all these kinds of things. I have the file
Wow.
right here. It's a long story. We can get into that
Yeah,
later at
I
some
want it all,
point.
man.
And then he's like, "Oh, I wish I knew your dad." And I'm like, "Why? If you randomly found this file for no reason, why would you wish you knew my dad?" And at my dad's funeral, some man came up to me and my sister, and he's like, "Oh, your dad was a genius. He transformed the supercomputer." And in this file, in the file I just had, was actually a picture of the supercomputer and all this kind of like, so things
Wow.
are
So
crazy because I could say, like I legitimately everything I've gone through, I don't talk about or have not talked about, because people, the minute you start to talk about these things, your credibility goes away, right? So if you want to like maintain normalcy in society, especially if I lived in Britannia, I would never mention it. You would never disclose these things. You would just keep it to yourself. Very British. Keep your stiff upper lip. Oh, that sounded a bit Scottish, didn't it?
that was
Anyway,
Scottish.
yeah, it came out because I'm
So
local. Anyway,
what
anyway, so anywho, so you don't talk about these things. And then
Mhm.
anyway,
That's still
so
Scottish.
I didn't.
Can
I didn't, and
can
now
I
I am. Yeah.
can so what did you think your dad did? Like what as growing up, what did you
Right.
believe your
Okay, so
dad's job
we
to be?
thought he was just this normal guy that, oh gosh, my I think my there goes my microphone. Sorry. We thought he was just a electrical engineer.
Mhm.
Boop, work for Honeywell, Spear Univac, all these kinds of things. But now in this file, it says classified. So like, oh my God, there's so many stories. It says
Wow.
classified. And anyway, that my dad talked to NASA, that my dad was at Wright Patterson. And here's the great story about the Wright Patterson thing. So, ever since my book came out and like I started to do podcasts, it took a while, and la la la, because I'm like, oh, here I am telling my story, and a bunch of men, older men, boomer men, kind of like MUFON people or whatever. I don't even know. They kind of started to research or message me in Messenger, like not with their fleshy bits or anything like that, but just like legitimately nice people talking about things. And so I wanted to do a post for them, like, thank you so much, gentlemen, for helping me think about, like my dad or everything I've gone through. But this voice said to me, "Oh, take a picture of the papers." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So then I was like trying to take a picture of the papers, but I had to like kind of like move my camera up a bit because I didn't want my dad's social security number or his number in the military. Like there's a lot of specifics about my dad. So I kind of moved it up. But I legit me, because I'm a golden retriever. I'm like, anyway, I'm like, "Oh, I'm just obeying." I'm like, "Okay, I'm just taking a picture." And I posted it to Facebook. I'm like, "Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for, because there's a lot of stories about this. Like a lot of people come at me and tell me, and they disclose a lot of things because there's so much disclosure, people. There's so much disclosure. Anyway, so they're disclosing me. And so I'm like, "Thank you guys." And I just posted this, I'm like, "La la la," because I'm a dork. And then these guys are like, "Wow, your dad was that Wright Patterson? Oh, he not re-engineered, whatever engineered, reverse engineered um the Roswell spacecraft, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Oh, is that what you got out of it?" Because I'm like,
Whoa.
I had no idea. I'm benighted. I'm a happy little whatever. I am a
So,
golden retriever.
so when we hear stories like Bob Lazar's story and stuff like that, where
Yeah.
these guys are working in secret, and
Yeah.
that's basically
I'm
what your
the
dad was doing.
daughter. Yeah, I'm the daughter of that. And I had no
That's
clue, but
wild.
I know, but I suspected it. But like legit, like my dad's casket was going into the hearse, and this man came up to me and my sister. Like I'm telling you, at any moment there's CIA or something walking around everywhere, right? Especially in Britannia. But anyway, so right, whatever. Anyway, so here's me and my sister, and this dude comes up, like I said earlier. "Oh, I wish I, worked with your dad." And he said, "Okay, this is where we're gonna go deep rabbit hole,
Let's
people."
go. Let's go.
Yeah. He goes, um, I don't know why they fired your dad." And I'm looking at my sister because, okay, so this is our brain thinking in the moments of this conversation. Like how people say something and then your brain says a thing and you're like thinking during a conversation. Okay. So he goes, the hearse is there. My dad's body is going in. This man says this to me and my sister. I mean, like if we were super mourning, like, I mean, like if we were like, I'm sorry, if we were really crying, because there's some people that are really, really hurt. But at this point with our dad, it was like, he was older, blah, 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 that kind of thing. Okay. I don't mean to be, harsh on the situation, but we
Mhm.
were not in depths of grieving. Let's just put it that way. Because it had been a long thing. So it was kind of a relief. Anyway, let's put it that way. Anyway, so he says this thing and he goes, "I don't know why they fired your dad." And my sister and I, boop, 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 our brains are thinking, because my dad said he quit. Okay. All right. He quit. Okay. I don't know why they fired your dad because he transformed the supercomputer. And we're like, "Oh, okay." Like, la, la, la. I'm sure he said a few things, but these are the words that stuck in my brain. I mean, if I wanted to like dig into this file, I could show you a picture
Mhm.
of the picture that he like that's in the CIA file of the supercomputer that my dad transformed. Isn't that miraculous? Because my dad died in 2010, and here we are 14 years later, and here comes a picture of the supercomputer. Like, how does that happen? Anyway, um, so all right, so that played out, and I looked at my sister and I'm like, "Hey, yeah, I told you I was traded for alien technology. I told you that she knows, we can get in that whole story. She knows that the gray aliens were showing up, and it's a long story. Anyway, so just a few months ago, I was at a conference in Florida called Full Disclosure Now. And I listened to a lot of people saying a lot of things and disclosing a lot of things. And I was there as a speaker, but I was there as a student or a learner or a listener or whatever. It just harkened to me so much in my heart. Anyway, um, but one of the things, there was a lot of people that were from Montauk or had suffered through Montauk, and that's a whole long story unto itself. But in this moment, with a lot of these Montauk people, like the voice is talking to me, my brain is starting to click. And a lot of scenarios. I mean, there's a lot that I don't want to get into. I want to get into different subjects with your people, with everybody that's listening. Um, but the thing was, I realized in that moment that both things can be true. Isn't that where God is also, where both things are true? I think that my dad quit. And I think that they fired my dad because he lost his job. I'll never forget it. In my book, see, a lot of things have been revealed to me
Hmm.
since I wrote the book. So it's almost like I have to write another book because
So
like all these revelations.
more things are adding up.
Yes. That I think my dad was saving me from Montauk. I think he said
Wow.
bullshit because at the same point in time, there was a number of things that I'm not ready to disclose yet. I'm not ready. I need to talk to some other people about this before I will disclose these things. But my pediatrician was starting to give me, and if you knew me, he wanted to give me antidepressants. Okay, and my mom was supposed to give me a spoonful of antidepressants and all this kind of stuff, la la la. But I think they were trying to start to drug me. There's a lot of things that I've kind of talked about in Facebook or whatever. Like this might be the beginning of this other book, but I think they were like grooming me and grinding me. Um, they gave me free bus passes to get downtown, where they were like throwing kids, kids were being lost all the time, and child trafficking and heroin. So they were, even though my dad said, no, you can't have my daughter, they were setting it up for me to be lost in their system, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so all of these things, after I went to this disclosure conference, I'm like, holy crap. It just like woke me
Hmm.
up. I don't want to say the word woke. I was more and more awake.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was set for Montauk. And I think a lot of the kids in Montauk, such as myself, we have psychic abilities. So I'm going to say to you that we all have psychic abilities. Please don't say you don't. Please don't think you don't. It's kind of
Hmm.
like we can all play the piano. You can start with sticks, but if you work at it, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but
for anyone listening that doesn't know about Montauk, that was like the Stranger Things, the real story of Stranger
right,
Things, where they were
right,
taking kids and doing all these experiments and stuff like that, and nasty stuff, man.
right.
So for anyone that
And
doesn't
and
know about,
I'm going to say to you, and I'm going to say some things to you, and these things are honest from my heart, because it almost makes me want to cry, because I feel like a lot of people um look at this. You're going to see my face change. Egotistically or something like that. But a lot of us Montauk people, or I was slated for it. These are things right straight from our heart. I think I was slated for Montauk, and I discovered some of these things as an adult. Like, I was at a conference room, and I literally, there was at least 100 people, and I transformed it like a holodeck, like you would have seen on Star Trek, a holodeck. Like there was no longer walls. We were all transformed. It literally looked like a holodeck on Star Trek and stuff like that. I've levitated people. I've done all of these things. So I think that's why I was slated for Montauk. Um, and I'm not quite sure. I think it's a preface of, all right, my dad, our background is German, okay, and Prussia and Bohemia. So if you want to go into all these kind of deep things, like, oh my gosh, like there's this whole, I'm sorry. There's this Nazi weird program that people talk about on the other side of the moon and
hmm
not Mars. And I'm like,
hmm
what the shit? Because
hmm
my other side is Norwegian, and we freaking hate Nazis. I'm like, and my dad did too. And like my dad's family and all this kind of stuff. But I feel like it's a lineage. And there's a lot of stories that go with
hmm
that whole thing. And it's like, I don't know. So
So
I'm in a, go ahead.
I was going to say, a lot of people say that at the end of World War II, possibly a lot of the Nazis came over
Mhm.
and started working hand to hand in America and England and wherever.
Right. And then guess what? So here I am, and I'm an exchange student to Brazil, and I'm sitting down there in Gramado in Caxias do Sul do Brasil, and I'm sitting there in people's houses, and I know they're freaking Nazis. And I'm like 18 years old. Oh my God, this sounds so bad. But there's a part of me that wonders, okay, so I don't know how your people who listen, how snappy, happy, and wide awake they are, but there's a thing called 20 and back.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
there's a little thing that I think I've been 20 and back because
Oh,
like,
wow.
oh no,
So,
no,
so,
no, no. Yeah.
so for anyone listed, 20 and back is where you're taken for 20 years, working in another
Mm,
planet, another dimension, whatever that
mm,
is. But time doesn't change here, and you come back, and it's like the next day to you. But you've been your
mm,
spirit, body, whatever it is, has been somewhere else for 20 years.
mm. And you have to know that Hollywood discloses all these things. So I literally have been on the super space program, but I'm not on the super space. I've been on the super space program that's here on the upper realms of this realm of Earth, but also the super like galactic space. So much I don't know about Mars and la la la, but I've also been on the waterways and on land. So I call myself land, sea, and air and galactic. I think that I'm part of the Galactic Council to watch and make sure that everybody's playing nice. I think you need to watch a movie called Ender's Game. Go back to that one because they use children because children's minds are malleable, children's minds and brains. And if you live in Britannia, you know all about how they use children. And so that's part of the harvesting and things. And I got to watch some of these things. Well, anyway, so where was it going? Like the 20 and back for me. I don't there was the we'll come back to I mean, we
What?
dissected it
What?
too much and now I like, but I mean,
Can
I
I
just,
just?
yeah, go
Sorry,
ahead.
before we
Yeah.
go to the, because I really want to talk to you about the 20 and back. I'm writing that
Mm,
down.
yeah.
But so when you was 8 years old, you met the president and stuff like that.
Right.
Was there other kids there, or was
No,
it
no,
just
I was
you?
the only one. No.
So do you
Oh,
think
and
this
I,
was something to do with your dad's work, like, and
yes,
obviously
no.
knowing high powered people and stuff like that?
Yes. And this I think was an alms to me because I think I stopped being in working with the shorts the gray aliens, and then I started to work with different aliens at that point. But also the pin in it was God, now I just lost it again. Was that oh God, I lost it again and it
That's
just had
okay.
it 2
No
seconds there.
problem. No problem.
But anyway, yeah, no, being off work. Oh, I was with this Brazilian guy, this Nazi. Thank you. I'm remembering. There's legitimately, I'm sitting there with him. I'm in Gramado. I can't remember. You guys can look at everything that I ever say. You all, everybody can look it up. I mean, like, we all need to speak in the truth. We all speak the truth. So everything that myself and other people that I know and align myself with, we stand in our truth. So it's always
Hmm.
something you can look up. Anyway, I sat there in his living room in 1980, and this is why I think I'm 20 and back is because I'm sitting there like before we were talking, you know, having different thought forms as we're talking. I'm like, dude, I'm looking at you, you fat bastard. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, you fat fucking bastard. I'm like, I could just leap up right now and slit your throat. And I'm 18 years old and I'm a little blonde girl, you know, la 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 from Fridley, Minnesota. Why would I have the capacity to think I could do that?
Who was this
Like,
guy? How did you?
I don't know, but I could smell it on him. I'm like, you fucking bastard. I could just jump up right now and no one could stop me and no one would know. Like legitimately, if there's a trigger word, like there's nothing that would stop me that I could, and and that's terrible because
Hmm.
I'm the nicest, sweetest person. I'm a golden retriever. And
Hmm.
that's why I think I'm 20 and back, because there's a part of me that's like, oh no, there's an assassin in me or something like that. A person that does real work for real things that
Hmm.
are galactic. And that's what makes me smell or be suspicious of the 20 and back, because I'm like, I have these, and it's just not normal. And you could think, like normal people would have kind of crazy thoughts like me, but I mean, like, no, these are very specific, geared to specific situations and situational things. So I'm not sure if I was a mature Manchurian candidate for that purpose in that room, but have worked always hard to stop any triggers or any programming such as that. So if they were trying to program me, and they could have, I did not accept that programming and I shut that shit down.
Hmm.
So I only witnessed that timeline
And
and that
felt,
opening of that window.
wow. So that
Yep.
that Brazilian dude, like, you just
Mhm.
knew he was like, you had
Oh
a
yeah.
feeling that he was an enemy, and
Yes.
you just had
Yes.
a knowing.
Yes. Oh
Wow.
no, no, no. It was more than just knowing. Being in the room and the situation and everything like that, he was a full-on Nazi.
Hmm.
Um, and I held myself back. This is terrible to say, from ending that situation. I could have, but I just was like, nope. There was a timeline, like, nope, nope.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you talk to other people in this situation. I might be a little bit too much right
No,
now.
it's cool. You can say anything on
Okay.
this show.
I'm just saying, this is the real thing that's going on right now, people. And I think a lot of people are waking up to these things and feeling timelines. I think a
Hmm.
lot of us are feeling these shift in timelines. And I'm very suspicious of CERN doing this, because as a child, I didn't think this was going to happen, although I was aware that it could have.
Hmm.
So anyway, so here we are.
So
Yeah.
I'd like to go to when you was a child and you start
Mm,
experiencing seeing these greys, these
mm,
entities. How did
mhm.
that start for you?
Like I said, I was in the crib. I was in diapers. I knew I wasn't really, I could probably roll around. I don't know if I could stand up so much. Anyway, here come the cucumbers again. Just a heartbeat. Anyway, sorry. It's
That's
summer.
cool.
Anyway, we're still eating cucumbers. Anyway, but I remember. Okay, and so a lot of people are going to say, "Oh, how can you remember this as a child or anything like that?" And what I'm going to say is the optimization of your brain and in a defining moment, because when you're facing something such as that, it's shocking. Pablo Picasso, when he was a child, there was a earthquake in his village and he got thrown over the shoulder of a loving adult or something, and they ran, through the village. So if you think about Pablo Picasso and his view at that point, his defining moment as an infant, his shaken up um world and how his art is, it makes sense, right?
Hmm.
And his sister was born like a day or two afterwards. So if you think about the shock of, that, then you can see where breasts come into his art and all that kind of stuff. So I think that was a defining moment for me. I'm on all cylinders. I'm like thinking I'm going to die in that moment. The gray aliens were in the window and they came in, and they came over my crib, and that's when I got knocked out. I felt and heard a vibration. I did not see a spaceship. I'm going to tell you, just a few years ago, a woman popped up in my Facebook friends, and I knew she lived behind me, and I reached out to her. We went out, met up at a restaurant, and she's just really normal apple pie, like we'd never really be friends because she's too normal and I am not. She's like whatever. And just so nice. I mean, I'm nice too, but I'm like, she's just like, a
Too nice.
normie, a muggle. She's a total muggle. That, okay,
Yeah.
hang your head on that one. And So anyway, I'm like, all of a sudden I started talking about the aliens. And in my mind, this is like where you have that secondary conversation. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's gonna think you're nuts. She's never gonna talk to you again. Why are you bringing this up? Like that's the conversation I'm having. And meanwhile, I'm saying, oh, there were great aliens. And she stopped me. She put her hand on top of my hand, and this is on the back of my book. She wrote a little blip for my book and stuff like that. And she goes, Dana, I remember it. And I went, "What?" Because she was my age, so she was an infant too. I'm like, "What? You remember it?" And she goes, "Yeah, I was petrified. I didn't know what it was, but she heard the vibrations and the sounds and all these kinds of things going on repetitively as often as I did. So I think that she was on the same vibrational line or awake or had psychic abilities such as I did. We tried to vet it to make sure we figure that she was not affected or visited like I was, but I think um, she stands as another one of these witnesses. And I'm like, holy moly, Jenny, here you are 50 years later, more than 50 years later, more, 60 years later, 61 years later, almost 62 years later, coming back and being a kindred spirit. Oh, I almost want to cry. And supporting me in the fact that we didn't see the spaceship. It could have been a vortex. But I just have recently heard about this guy, Travis Walton or something,
Yeah.
who had vibrational things. Because there's a lot of other ships that people say that are silent, and that is true. Those are true. But it's kind of like, hey, describe a dog, right? You got German shepherds and chihuahuas and all this kind of stuff. So like they're all different, and I don't know. I can't explain it. I have no answers for you. All I can tell you is my experiences, and I hope that that helps other people. But she said she could be a witness for me and say that, yes, Dana, that was true. Now, I'm going to say this, fast forward 4 years, about 3 or 4 years, because this is the 60s. Parents were a little bit different. I lived across the street from a lake, and Jenny Joe and I were down by the lake. Of course, no parents are there. Old people. Anyway, and I remember looking at the lake, and it's a long story. It's in the book. I'm looking at the lake, I'm looking at the water, and all of a sudden I realized I was up on the hill and there were taller gray aliens. So I think those were more true aliens versus the drones that were probably visiting me in the house. That's a whole long convoluted story. A lot about aliens in that realm. But anyway, so here are these aliens. And then I see them. They're kind of quick. I can't really see them. I can, but I can't. And then the next thing I know, I'm down by the water again. And then I'm coming online as my body, because like when you're dealing with aliens, it's a very different realm. Everything about this, everything about everything is vibration. So I'm coming back into my vibrational 3D self. And all of a sudden, I'm in awareness that my upper cheeks of my buttocks is stinging as if somebody, poked a stick in it. So I excused myself, ran home, jumped up on the bathroom counter and looked in the mirror, and sure enough, there was a scoop. Um,
Oh.
Years later, and I begin my book with this because with my son, I said to my son, how do I start this book? I'm like, hi, I'm Dana. I'm 62 years old. I grew up in Fridley. My dad was an electrical engineer. I'm like, that's boring. And he goes, you got to Tarantino it. I'm like, what? He's, Tarantino, his movies, like put something fascinating from the middle or the end and bring it to the front. And I'm like, oh, okay, great idea, kid. That's why I had you. I love you so much. Anyway, so the first chapter of my book is where I'm standing there with my neighbor who still lives here. If I could move my camera, I could show you her house. Like there's one house and then her house. And I'm standing there scratching the back of my neck, and a microchip comes out of my neck. Anyway, long story, you got to get the book and read all
Whoa.
that.
Did you say you was
Yeah.
14 when that happened?
No. This is just this is 1990. 1995, maybe, I
Okay.
don't know, in the 90s. So I'm
Whoa.
like, oh, I thought it was a zit because like you're like, oh, it's a bit of piss or poo
Yeah.
or pus or blah blah blah. Anyway, so I'm like, and I was like doing this, and she's like, what are you looking? And I'm like, I thought it was going to be pus, like white, and it was like a microchip. I mean, I'm looking at a microchip. I didn't know what to say to her. I'm
Whoa.
like, this is in the early 90s. Nobody knew what microchips look like, right? We hardly had cell phones. Okay. You weren't even born in 1998. But anyway, so I'm like, blah, blah,
I
blah, blah,
was.
barely. Anyway, so we're like this. And then she literally went like this, pushing and scooping. And she's like, pushing, and she's like, oh my god, it doesn't break under pressure. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm like, it's a microchip. And she's like, that came out of your neck? And I'm like, yeah. And then she like examined the back of my neck, la la la. Anyway, that whole story, I don't know if what the scoop in the back of my butt like went up the back of my neck and came out in that way. I'm also going to say, God, I have so much to tell you about. I'm also going to say that this same woman, because like when we met, because we're neighbors, and she's like, what? You met aliens? Like, you should probably do some etheric implant things. I'm like, what? Because I'm a golden. I'm like, I've stayed in I've hidden in the cosmic closet. I'm just gonna tell you guys all, like, so I don't know, la la la. I like tried to keep my head buried, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Alien implants? She's like, oh my god, you probably are full of alien implants. We gotta get you. Let's go, giggity giggity. And I'm like, what? So then something Adrian Wentworth, I think was her name, she made me go see this woman. She's like doing this woo-woo stuff on me, like, oh, alien implants. I'm like, kind of believed it, kind of believed it. But then all of a sudden, here comes this implant out of my neck. And I'm like, wow. And she goes, like, because you pay for all these woo-woo things sometimes, like Reiki, and I'm a Reiki master teacher, but how you gonna really, really believe in all this stuff unless you experience something?
Hmm.
And we're like, oh my God, we paid money and we literally were experiencing this. This chip actually came out of my neck. And I
Have
have
you
to
still got that
think,
chip? Have you
oh
still got
God,
it?
no. Okay, wait. Here's the
Sorry.
best part. Here's the best part. Okay, so came out, like, I'm thinking, pus. She's like, what the hell? It's a chip. I'm like, yeah. And we're both sitting there. Our heads are practically knocking on each other, like, what? And it disappeared. It evaporated in the air. And she was just pushing on it, going, no, this is legitimately like a screen. This is metal. This is real metal. And she's doing like that. And we're both like this, and it evaporated.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah. I know.
That's
Right?
wild. That's
I know.
how often were you getting taken? How often were you encountering these
A lot.
beings?
All right. So when I was little, like when I was a little beaner, um, at first, toddler stuff. Not quite sure. In my book, I write, we had a dog that was outside. Her name was Dumb Dog, Dee Dee, whatever. Poor little Dee Dee. But I was 3 or 4 when we took her to the vet and had her put down because she started biting at small children. And it wasn't until I was writing the book, I'm like, oh my God. Oh, wait. You know the whole thing with the scoop thing in my back and my butt and the whole lake and all that kind of stuff?
Mhm.
See, this is the problem of people like me. When I was writing the book, all of a sudden the memory came out. Who lived on that land? Whose house was that? It was my dad's boss. Yeah, it
What
was my
what
dad's boss.
what
So
house was
he was
this? The house that you
the
were.
house where I got the scoop with where the ETs were up, and they
Oh,
booped
okay.
me from the lake up into the
Hmm.
woods and back down to the lake. It was my dad's boss's house.
Okay. Yeah.
So they're connected,
Hmm.
right? They were
Yeah.
all Spiri Univac.
Hmm.
They are all contracting with the aliens, right? Right. And did I tell you? Yeah, and then the whole file and all this I don't know. It's just crazy. It's just, and I legitimately growing up, I was like, well, all my life, I'm like, dear God, why all these witnesses? And God told me, I call my voice God, pretty much. Um, well, if you didn't have, because I'm gonna tell you, God never sounds like Charlton Heston. Okay, so if you hear God and God's like, oh, where's your Moses now? That's not God. If we were created in God's image, God sounds like us. Okay, right there. So anyway, God said, yeah, it's just whatever. Anyway, so I, I forgot where I was going with that story.
That's
Okay.
cool. That's cool. So
Anyway,
are you still experiencing this now with these entities?
oh my land. Well, first of all, I got a cat. Get a cat. And then secondly, I've done so much energy work and everything like that just to shut things down because I didn't want my my sons to be afflicted with this. I don't want to be afflicted with this. The last time that I had a huge alien interaction, I'm going to guesstimate that I was about 45 years old. And there was a gentleman, I did a podcast with him. There was a lot of people that insisted that I do a drawing. And I'm going to back it up. In about the 80s, I was grocery shopping. We used to have a thing called paperback books. And paperback books used to be on the end cap at any grocery store, and then you would find the paperback book. So anyway, one day I was like shopping, and then like all the end caps had this paperback, and it was this alien, and it scared the crap out of me because I'm like, that was the first depiction that I ever saw of a true gray alien. Because like I said, I keep away from other people's stories, all these kinds of things, because the voice was kind of like, you need to keep true and unto yourself and not get have other people's thoughts
Hmm.
convoluting your story. Like I didn't know why or whatever, but it was good with me because I just wanted to be normal. So anyway, so here was this Whitley Strieber book, Communion, you know, and so that came out. But anyway, so this other man was like, if you could do a picture of these aliens that visited me when I was 45. And so I did. I've got them briefly right here.
Hmm.
Again, I can't really see how I am.
Okay.
Whatever, if I can, I
So
wonder here, I'm gonna
for
try
the
to do the I'm gonna try
for the
to for what
listeners
here.
listening, that looks to me on first glance like
It's kind of an owl,
kind
but
of,
it's not.
yeah.
They
Ow.
shapeshifted. They look like lumps, they look like logs. And
Wow.
these guys came in. I'm going to tell you the story in a second. But then this guy, the squiggly guy,
Hmm.
I don't know if you can see him. He's wearing a black Speedo, which is kind of crazy. He's the first alien I ever saw with black underwear. But if you can imagine, he's like Jack Skeletor or any of
Yeah,
these like
yeah,
Mrs. Peregrine's children for whatever. Like he's
yeah.
this skinny guy and he's smiling. So I think after I was 8, 10 years old, after I got the rose, and when I started to do the super space program, oh, I'm gonna finish your question. I'm sorry. Um, after I did the started to do super space program, I started to draw pictures of him. I didn't know I was drawing pictures of him. We're gonna have to put pins in these stories.
Yeah.
I did, so I would draw pictures of him with squirrely long arms, and they would sit back and rock, but I didn't know why because I didn't remember about him. So let's go back. You were asking about that when I was a child. I would sometimes lucidly remember, oh, that's right, the Greys visited me. But other times I wouldn't remember. But here's the deal. I always knew because after the gray aliens would visit me, my physiology would change. I had superpowers. And I think that's also why I have these little bit of superpowers to today, but I don't sit and meditate and try to bring them out. So I might have really some superpowers that I don't understand or know about, but
Hmm.
I've been hiding in the cosmic closet, so I'm just to be frank, I'm afraid of it. I don't want to know. Okay, because it's very scary. It's a lot. And
Hmm.
I do know how I heal and all these kinds of things. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot for a human to say, "Oh, I have these capabilities." But as a infant and as a child up until 8, I like I said, I wouldn't often know that I had been visited, but the next morning I wake up and I'm like, "Oh, I can do this again. I can do this, I can do that." And much to my sister's chagrin, because she hated it, she was 7 years older than me. She just liked it that she was bigger than me and she could sit on me and tickle me, and I hated it, but I had superpowers. So,
Wow. So this gave you
yes,
like strength and stuff, and
it was more like electrical things and weird things. It's like not so much strength, but I could change things and move things and do things and new,
wow.
like new. Yeah. So that was like, and she hated that. So anyway, so again, okay. So that pin, yay. I'm glad we completed that thought. Thank you so much. Cause a lot of times in, these podcasts, like I don't get back into it because I get a little jocular and then I forget.
Sidetracked.
But anyway, so
It's
here we
cool.
go. Back to these guys. And I'm telling you, in Hollywood, there's this super guy. And I'm telling you, or the skinny guy, um, it wasn't until the last year of me writing the book, I gave the powers, or I gave God a year to show me what he wanted in the book, because my book was very vanilla for the first 3 years. And then after that, oh my God, then I brought out the reptiles and all this shit. I'm like, seriously, we're going to talk about reptiles? I don't want to do that. And it's like, hey, oh, David, as David Bowie said, if you're not afraid of your art, you're not doing it. I'm like, fuck you, David Bowie. Okay, fine, let's go. All right. So anyway, so, all right. So here we are. And yeah, so these guys showed up and they took, they took my DNA. And oh, well, first of all, back it up. When the little brown plug guys came, and I'm telling you, Whitley Strieber saw these guys, but they shapeshift. Most aliens shapeshift. Everything's holograph, so everything can shapeshift, and that's a whole another story and all this kind of stuff. It's all vibrational, la 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 la. It's all frequency. Anyway, these guys came in and they looked very harsh, like you can see in the picture, and just jaggedy, and they had brown modeling around their faces. And my husband and I were down there. We used to have our date nights down there with some daiquiris and TV and little laughs. So we're away from the kids, and here come these things, these beings. And I talked telepathically, and they're like, "Oh, are we scaring you?" And that's when I start to talk French. French has a lot of F words, F, 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 if you know what I mean, like F you. And they're like, "Oh, we're scaring you." Okay. Um, so then they shape shifted, and I'm like, "I don't care that you look a little bit softer, rounder." I'm like, "You're still an asshole." I'm like, what? You know, and I'm like, "Why are you here?" And they're like, "This is what I like, because some people like Middle Earth or this or that." And just in this time, they said, "We're here to save your planet." Which says to me that they weren't originally from here. So these weren't Middle Earthers or anything like that, which could have been, or a different realm that lives here. No, they were visiting. So they took my DNA, meaning my eggs. And it wasn't until I was kind of like, almost printed my book that I was talking to another woman. And she was upset by this. And she's the one that reminded me, or enlightened me. Oh my God, they had your husband's DNA as well. I'm like, oh, Farkle.
Did your
Yeah,
husband
like,
see these entities as
no.
well?
My husband is a normie. He is a muggle. And every damn time, shadow people, I want to talk to you about shadow people. Every time, any of these other things, except for when the angels showed up, because there was one time I had to like bring angels in the room, and Archangel Michael held a knife to his throat. And I know that sounds cuckoo.
To your
But
husband?
anyway, to my husband, but normally he's knocked out, because when you meet aliens, and this is why I guarantee you, I'll bet you almost 100% of humans have met an alien, but only 80% remember. I guarantee you that, like, they knock you out. You don't know. My husband doesn't know. He doesn't know
Does
that
he
he's been
remember
near
that?
any.
Does he
No,
remember that?
nope, 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 doesn't remember it. But I'm just saying that we had been intimate that night. So all of a sudden I'm like, holy crap, this woman reminded me, like, oh my God, they not only have my eggs, but they have my husband's sperm.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of like, I love my children. Like, if you want to make me start crying in a lot of interviews, especially when I started doing podcasts, I would kind of start to cry. Um, Thinking about my boys. They're 32 and 29 years old. I mean, oh my God. See, but to think that I have other children out there, potential, um, what are they doing with them? Are they making them super soldiers? Are they cloning them? Are they eating them? Are they whatevering with them? And I literally have to compartmentalize that in order to stay sane and not be bawling my eyes out as a mother about what are the possibilities of
Mhm.
that. But I just want to say, people, this is real. I didn't believe in any of this. I don't believe in it. I still don't believe in crop circles. I don't flat earth. No, I've been above earth. It's round. I've seen it. I've gone through wormholes, la 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 la, the whole thing. But I legitimately want to poke a stick at everything. I don't trust anything. I don't believe in anything. I don't believe in authority or any of these kinds of things. So if I'm telling you something, it's because I'm vetting it, because I'm saying that's full of crap and I don't believe it. I don't believe any of this. I want to just be a mom and just sit down and eat Doritos and watch Housewives or something or another, blah, blah, blah. I just want to have a normal life, but that is not the life that God intended for me. So whatever,
When did you start? When did you start accepting this and like really like?
Here's the great story, because you're British. Okay, so okay. Oh, and hey, I was on a Norwegian reality show in
Oh wow!
2018. Yeah, so I manifest shit. So this is kind of another part of like being next to the aliens. You can manifest shit, except for haven't really manifested like money. That's coming. I'm hoping. Anyway, so here it was. I'm back from Norway. I hope you can hear me. I'm hoping because I'm like my ears are kind of whatever. This is my
Yeah, I can
kid's
hear.
old probably XP gate Xbox, the headphones they didn't want anymore. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, so I'm sitting there going, yeah, bling. My phone just went bling. Anyway, so I'm sitting there because all my life people have been like, oh, you're supposed to write a book. Oh, it's in your star chart. You're supposed to write this book, blah, blah, blah. And legitimately, I'm telling you, people, from the bottom of my heart, all the things with all the entities, ghosts, angels. I can't even describe to you the paranormal, supernatural. And Dana sits there and goes like, oh, that's normal. And I'm sitting here watching Harry Potter one day on a Sunday, drinking wine, eating my bucket of popcorn, and folding laundry because that's what I do on a Sunday. And in the United States, they have epic hours, like marathons of Harry Potter and all this kind of stuff. I'm sitting here looking at Harry Potter. I'm judging him. I'm like, Harry Potter, I shit bigger than you. And then I'm like, oh God, Dana, that's probably your book, isn't it? And I'm like, oh my God, now I gotta get real. I'm like, okay, all right. If Harry Potter is kind of like your next cousin, you guys could hang, that might be your book. And I'm like, oh my God, like legit. I'm like, I'm not a writer. And the voice is like, but you're an author. You have authority on something. So you have to write from your heart. La 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 la. So that's legit what happened is Harry Potter. I had a Harry Potter moment, or Harry Pooper is how I call him. And I'm like, I had to sit down. Like legit, it was very nice that just to watch that show, I was kind of like, it was the coming to Jesus for me. It was like, okay, yeah, I get it. Okay, fine. To say that for me, it was like Harry Potter. I'm like, that's just another day. To say that that might not be for other people. Other people that might not be their day. Other people that might not be their experiences all day long. And because for me, it's normal.
Mhm.
So I had to have a come to Jesus with that. And I'm like, okay. I mean, legit, it just really kind of was like, whoa, okay. So if Harry Potter isn't normal, and we're not normal, I'm not normal. All right. And the other thing was that above a particular age, I wasn't 60 yet, but I was pushing it. And my grandmother, my dad's mother, died when she was, I think, about 67. long story, too young. But I'm kind of like my boys, like I said, 32, 29. They really don't have, they're not engaged. They don't have children. So I'm kind of like, I'm gonna play pickleball and try to stay strong and hopefully be able to have conversations with my grandchildren as adults. But that might not happen. And so if it does not, my dad's mother and all of her things, she never left us a diary or notes or anything like that. So I kind of felt like it would be wrong of me or in sin as an error or wrongness for me to leave this planet without talking about my experiences. They must have been given to me for a reason. Um, so for me to begin with, it was for my my sons have heard some of my stories, but like every child, they don't listen to their mom, like ma 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 blah blah blah, whatever. I'm like, they're not gonna listen, they're not gonna pay attention, and they might regret that later. But also moms don't tell all of their stories. And then I'm like, this is going to be a love letter for my descendants. I don't know how many generations down the line, but everybody else was like, or the voice was like, no, 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 this is for everybody. And in my book, I legitimately was like, just talking about me, it's kind of egotistical, but that because you're British, I love this. And this is kind of like a disclosure or like a spoiler alert. Legitimately, okay, because I wasn't going to do any energy exercises. But for me, it was kind of like I can't teach humans their magic and how they are as holy humans because there are negative powers that be. And this is a holy war. This is an energy war of negativity versus positivity. And I'm like, the positive people don't know or understand or embrace who and how they are. You need to teach them. This is what the voice was saying. So I put a couple, and I laugh. I put some shocking energy exercises in there that if a normie or a muggle tried them, and a number of podcasters such as yourself came back to me and reported and said, oh shit, I tried that, holy crap. They're very gentle, they're very of nature things. These are
Mhm.
not harm none. I'm like, this is the positivity, this is the holy realm, and we're trying to teach these things. So I wasn't going to do these exercises, but then okay, and then the voice said, no, you got to give these exercises. Okay, great. So I had to have like a transition. So I have one page in there that says, and now for something completely different, the large. Anyway, I don't know for any of you Pythons out there, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, because
Yeah.
that's what I grew up on. The large. Anyway, so some people might laugh. Some, I don't know if you have any,
Did
like
your
legit, I can find that page. And now for something completely different.
have your sons had any experiences relating to this?
Yes, and that is where we get into the shadow person. Anyway, so here it is. And now for something completely different.
Love
The
it.
large. Very British. Anyway, so here's the thing. This is great. All right. So I became a Reiki master teacher, and I'm just going to tell y'all, if you ever wanted to be a Reiki master teacher, to forget about it. Like, that's so old school. That's bullshit. Reiki, whatever. And it's been, I don't know. It's corrupted, blah, 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 blah. You do you. Just bring in the divine white light energy. You are the divine conduit, all that kind of stuff. You don't have to pay money. Don't pay money to other people. I'm sorry. But anyway, so back in the day, this is back in the early 90s. In where I live, they're like, oh, if you're going to do hands-on healing, you have to have like a certificate. You should be a minister, all these kinds of things. I'm like, oh my God. This is kind of like the internet was new. Their Google wasn't even around. So I went to this seminar, and there's this dude. He's still out there to this day. I'm just going to warn you. And this is kind of scary. Anyway, so he will give you a certificate in the Divine Holy Order of Melchizedek. And I'm like, okay, great. Because back then I was kind of a Christian. I educated my way out of that. But anyway, so I was Christian. I'm like, oh, if it's good for Jesus, it's good for me. So I went to this thing, sat there for the seminar, and then the guy, oh, wait a minute. Okay. Put a pin in it. Remember the like these guys, let's go back to that. And I told you they had like this modeling around their face. The next morning I woke up, I had modeling around my face too. But anyway, all right. So that's just an after. Yeah, my face. It took me years. I had to get it scraped off by lasers. Anyway, so anyway, all right, put a pin in it. But anyway, so here's this guy, and he's like, he's talking, we're going to get this certificate. It was 5 box tops, 4 labels, 3 wrappers, and 1 thin dime. I'm like, okay, I'm sitting here all day, Saturday afternoon. And he's like, oh, and then now I want you to all come up here and I'm going to give you a, oh my God, now I'm forgetting the word. I'm going to breathe into your crown chakra. I'm going to give you a, I can't think of the word right now. It'll come to me. Anyway, I'm gonna do this thing. Why can't I think of it? Anyway, so
I do that all the time. So.
yeah. Anyway, I'm older than you, so I got more reasons. But anyway, and it's the end of the day for me. I'm running out of words because I got to put 25 more cents in. Anyway, so and then not an indoctrination. I can't think of it. Anyway, I'm gonna do anyway, la la la. And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't sign up for that. And so anyway, I went up there, he breathed into my crown chakra. He gave me an into, I could look it up anyway. Okay, in the Divine Holy Order of Melchizedek. And then he says, before you go, if something weird happens to you in the next few days, let me know. I thought that was kind of creepy, but it's what's the word? Oh gosh, and everybody's like, I know people out there like and they're saying the word this is the word. Anyway, indoctrination is not the word. Anyway, so I'm giving you this thing like, don't have sex, eat clean, have a bath, drink a lot of water, all these kinds of things, la la la. And I'm like, well, hey, it's Saturday night. How do I tell my muggle husband I can't have sex with you because I got a insert word here? Anyway, into I'm almost there. It's almost the whole word there. Anyway, so we're home, we're having the daiquiris, we're watching TV, we're downstairs, like I said before, and la la la, and we're sleeping. And all of a sudden I have this dream. I have what I call a waking dream, but this is one of those horrible religious dreams where I'm being spiritually attacked, where I have to throw down and say things, very Christian, like the Lord's Prayer and all this kind of stuff. And then suddenly I'm saying, out of the ashes comes a phoenix, out of the ashes comes a phoenix in my dream. And then I'm kind of like, I'm sleeping, and then I'm like, out of the ashes comes a phoenix, and it's like tightening up. Out of the ashes comes a phoenix, to the point where I'm almost screaming it. And again, my husband is a very light sleeper. If I move around or something, he wakes up. So when he doesn't, because like a lot of times he'll be like, oh, Dana, you were talking in your sleep. He'll wake me up. But in these cases, I know something's off because he doesn't say anything. He's not online.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I sit up and I'm like, out of the ashes comes a phoenix. And I'm like screaming it. I mean, I'm screaming it out loud. I'm sitting up and I can hardly breathe. And I'm like, whoa. It's pitch black, except for a little ambiance from a little bit of the lights in the room. And all of a sudden I can feel it behind me. I'm like, oh no. And I look behind me, and from floor to ceiling is this caped shadow figure with a fedora, floor to ceiling. Never heard of these things. And it wasn't until I was watching or listening to a radio program in the US that's at like 3 a.m. It's called Coast to Coast Radio. And this is like probably 5-6 years later. They're like, oh, shadow people. And the internet and Google is more online now. I'm like, what the "Oh, people." I ran home and I looked at them like, holy crap. And here were shadow figures. I'm like, holy, what is this thing? Floor to ceiling. And of course, I've got like an invisibility cloak, which is called a cotton sheet. I'm like, oh my God. So I throw it over myself and I'm like hiding under my cotton sheet. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like shaking. And I kind of think I passed out for, I have no idea how long, a minute, a second, an hour, no clue. But I'm scared because I'm a cow. I call myself a cow, not like I'm fat, but whatever. Because I consider myself to be like a cow in a field. Like I don't know what's going on. I'm chewing my cud, and here comes the
Mm-hmm.
farmer. I don't know what they're up to. That's
Yeah.
how I consider myself with the aliens, because that's what we are. Anyway, so I'm doing that whole thing, and I fell asleep, and I'm on a pull-out couch in the basement, and all of a sudden I hear next to my head, "Mommy." I'm like, "What?" It was my baby who's still in diapers. "Mommy?" I'm like, "Yes? Um, who's that man in the corner over there?" Oh my God, you
Whoa.
can see him too? And he's like, "Yeah." And so here's my boy. He's still in his diapers. He's got no shirt on. So my little guy, he's probably not quite a year old. He was born on 11/11. He didn't cry. He must have walked around upstairs, woke up in the middle. He has never done this in his life. I mean, this boy, when I saw his face when he came out of my body, I'm like, "Oh shit, I'm not worthy. This one's an ancient soul, ancient soul." Like he scared me. Like I'm not worthy.
Wow.
Like he's like 20,000 million years older than me. Like, wow. And so this little boy, he puts himself to bed for naps. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so he must have came into our bedroom upstairs, saw that we weren't there, walked around the house, upstairs, living room, blah, blah, blah. Then he's too little to walk the stairs. He had to surf on his tummy. Okay. Surf on his tummy and look around in the basement and find us, found me in this bed. It's dark. Mommy, who's that man over there or what's over there? And I scooped him up and I put him under my cloaking device. And he's 29 years old and he remembers it to this day, this shadow
Wow.
man. I had, like I said, I didn't know what a shadow person was. I had no name for it, and it wasn't until years later that I heard about it on Coast to Coast Radio. I was like, "Holy shit, this shit's real."
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that this man said, "If anything weird happens to you, please call me and let me know." But see, here's the thing: the fact that he was giving me a entombment, that's the word, that he was giving
Yes.
me an entombment and I didn't know what the entombment is about. So I just have to say again to people, like, I don't trust a lot. I mean, like, harm none, love many, trust few. I'm like, I don't know what your entombment is. Do you know what your entombment is? Because like I don't like channeling because like I think there's a lot of things out there that lie. I don't trust it. I have to literally vet it. I don't know. Um, so I don't know what this thing was, and I don't know what this entombment was. So I'm like, the guy said, "Don't have sex, don't drink alcohol." I'm like, "Sex and alcohol, let's go, people!" Like, screw this attunement, like, whatever, bring it on. But I mean, like, so because maybe I screwed up the entombment that the shadow hat guy,
Yeah. So
painted
this was the
because
Hat Man.
yeah, the hat man. And then I was watching this movie later with Robin Williams, What Dreams May Come.
Mm-hmm.
And there was, an actor, oh, he's Nordic actor, I can't think of his name right now. But anyway, so there was a scene because in the movie, Robin Williams' wife dies, and there was a painting that had been painted about her. He goes into the painting, and let me tell you, people, you can do these things. There's a lot of stuff like that. Like, I have a lot to tell you about all that. But anyway, so Robin Williams goes into this painting, Shadow, not Proctor. Who was, I think this guy was in the old Dune. Anyway, so here he is. this guy, this actor, older Nordic actor, and he's with Robin Williams, and they're kind of like in a canoe, but it's a huge library, and they're paddling, and the library is full of water, and they're paddling through the stacks of books or the stacks of, whatever, and they're paddling through, and it's not Proctor. Anyway, so he's got a hat and a cape, and I'm like, oh, is he a shadow hat man, or are they watchers? Is that what a watcher looks like? I wasn't quite sure what these things are.
Mhm.
You can never be quite sure of what things are, and don't be quite sure of what things are, because if you're sure what you think something is, I'm going to tell you you're completely wrong, pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of all of this, I just have to say, isn't why life interesting and wonderful? Like, how crazy.
100%. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Man.
I know, right?
So has your
Yeah.
son seen anything else like that? Do you know?
Oh, I never saw a shadow happen. Oh, I did see shadow figures running through a neighbor's house. These neighbors, I did not like them. They moved away. I think that is like just negativity, and I think those are like specters and like dark entities, things like that. So I've seen those kinds of things, but that's not what's in my house. In this moment, this thing, whatever it was, I felt it was very stoic. I wasn't necessarily afraid of it, because had I been actually really afraid, I would have probably ran away out of the room and stuff like that. I felt like it was a watcher, um, a keeper of something or time or this or that. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I have more questions than answers,
Hmm.
about everything.
Yeah.
About
100%.
everything. I
The
don't want
more,
people to be like, don't look at me for answers. I mean, look at me for like, hey, I'm just trying to open up community. I'm just trying to
Mhm.
open up conversation for all of us, because the more of us that get together and come out with our stories, because I hid for 60 some years, and I feel almost like I'm late to the party now. If I had spoken up a long, long time ago, I would have been one of like the OGs, like I would have been, the leader of all that. But I didn't have enough inside of me to be able to do that.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
It's never too late, and I think
Yeah.
you're probably doing it the right time for you.
Yeah, yeah, for me. But I mean, legitimately, I've always been on the CIA. I mean, they've always watched me, they've always listened. Like, I got a lot of stories about all that kind of stuff. They
Would
know
you?
who I am. They know who I am. Right. And I mean, I live above a dumb, deep underground military base.
But
And I've
now,
yes, right now.
oh
And I've been
wow.
kind of talking about that. But they have been shutting this one down. So I think they're not going to hurt me, because they've been shutting this one down. But,
How do you know
yeah, so
that?
that,
How do you know there's a base?
oh, because my sister's been down there. And I also live above the break room,
Hmm.
because I heard them watching TV, talking, and during the Biden and Trump administration, when they switched, um, they started, because there's a train that runs under here, and
I
we
hear
can
that
hear
so
it.
often. I hear that so often. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Well, you have to understand that the Ford motor plant is just very close to here. We live on limestone and sandstone. The Ford motor plant drilled tunnels 24/7 with air guns. How do you build tunnels with air guns? Like, interesting, right? So anyway, so here's my dad, right? And he's working for NASA and blah 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 blah. And my sister is a dental assistant. She's not a hygienist. She didn't complete college. She went for like not even a year, maybe a year, something like that. So she's an assistant, not a hygienist. And all of a sudden, one of my dad's friends hire her to be an engineer at Honeywell. So there she is down in Bloomington and Hastings, and as an engineer, like, how the hell, what? And so one of her things that she would do, because she's a stooge, because she's like me, a golden retriever, although she's even more of a stooge. Like, she's even more she just blends in even more. I'm just going to say she blends in even more. And her job was to take, um, she was in control of, over here. Okay. It's where I live. It's called the Twin Cities, Army Armory Plant. So it's the TCAAP. And that's the cover story for the military. And they were like making ammunition, but ammunition such as shells, la 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 la, la, which would be bullets or maybe some kind of like a bomb, not really, whatever. But her thing was to make sure that all of the different drafts for different components of different tech for different computer systems for different bombs and technology, that was all being consistent. I don't know how to describe all that. So she was monitoring that. I'm like, well, a bullet doesn't need a computer-based system, blah, 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 blah. So, a lot of the baloneyism again. But part of her job was to take drafts and prints from where she was, kind of the Bloomington area, to just a couple miles north where I live. And I'm near the Arden Hills area. And she would have to hand deliver these things. They couldn't be speedy delivered, UPS, FedEx, emailed, any kind of hand delivered. And so she would have to go as a civilian to this military plant and go. And she got a little pixated one day, and she was a little terse because there was a girl at the counter, and the girl at the counter wouldn't let my sister step past her. And this girl had to call a military personnel to assist my sister, but my sister was pissed off because that's kind of how my sister is, about this whole process. So my sister's spinning off on me and sputing this. I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't care. And then she's like, well, and then I took the elevator down. Okay. So I've lived here now 33 years. I don't know. I'd lived there probably 10 years at that time. And I'm like, what are you talking about? All of the buildings here are one level. And I'm like, to be fair, because I can be wrong, and I'm always admit that I'm wrong because I poke a stick at everything, my belief system could be wrong. I can be completely wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. Educate me. I'm like, well, maybe there's a building out there that has 2 stories. Never freaking seen one, but maybe there could be one. I live here. I don't see them. I could be wrong. And I'm like, up? Elevator up for like a vet, like a war vet, a paraplegic or wheelchair person to go up? And she's like, no, down into the tunnels. And I'm like, oh, well, because now I got her. Now I got her. I'm like, okay, down. I'm like, how many levels are on that elevator? Oh, I don't know, 4 or 5. I'm like, do you suppose you could put a key in there and turn it and it could go to other levels? And she's like, oh, I don't know. Yeah, maybe, I suppose. I'm like, oh, okay. To this date, because I don't know if they neuralized her. But recently I talked to her about it, and she was like, no, you told me about the tunnels. I'm like, oh my God. Oh, okay.
Oh
She
wow.
thought there was a basement. She called it a basement. Oh, 4 or 5 levels of a basement where men ride bicycles and drive golf carts, because that's a basement. It's not a tunnel. It's a basement, people.
Man.
Yeah. Anyway, so she had to hand deliver to a specific floor, to a specific person, to a specific office down there. So I do know there are offices. And she goes, oh, yeah, they go on for miles. Yeah. Okay. So what I love about this is all the DUMBs and all the maps that I've ever seen. This shit ain't on it. But I'll tell you what, because I used to have to get up and go to work at 3 in the morning. Oh, back in the day when it was like high flying. Oh, we had Black Hawk helicopters every night, flying in and out, flying in and out. You could hear the trains going down underneath. And in fact, because my book just came out in 2023, a neighbor, she read the book, and she goes, oh my God, because she moved here, don't know, I think they moved here maybe 8 years ago or something like that. She goes, "Oh my god, thank you for the book. I read about the tunnels." And um, she goes, "I remember when we first moved here, I just heard the all night at like 2 in the morning." She goes, "It was so loud, I had to get up." She goes, "I went outside, I could just."
Feel it.
Oh, yeah, like, one of my shelves fell down, like, all this kinda stuff, like, la la,
Mhm.
and she goes, "I didn't know what that was, and now I know what that was," the tunnels. But like
Yeah.
I said, it was during the Biden administration, the shift, the Biden-Trump administration, where I'm like, "Ooh, what's gonna go on now that we have a changing of the guard?" And I literally heard at night downstairs moving chairs, like that whole scraping, like in a cafeteria of the chairs, that scraping for hours, just scraping of the chairs, moving things. So a lot of people that were in Montauk or any of these people would say that aliens are down there, or they had Montauk children down there. I'm going to tell you that very specifically, my elementary school was targeted when I was in about third grade, the same time they were trying to drug me, my pediatrician, and all this kind of stuff. Um, Look this crap up. MTC buses. I lived off of East River Road. They gave us free bus passes. I'm in third grade. I'm tall. I'm almost as tall as I am now. So I was probably about 5'6", 5'7". They gave us free bus passes, straight shot into Minneapolis downtown. They dropped us off on Hennepin Avenue, where there was known child trafficking, heroin, all this kind of stuff. So it was kind of like a whole setup. I mean, there's tons of still people trafficking here. So I legitimately believe that a lot of this stuff was going on and going on up until this day. Were the two aliens that came and took my DNA, did they not come off a craft? Did they just come up from underneath my house through a certain vortex, wormhole, gateway, walk down the damn street to do this work? Your guess is as good as mine, but I have a lot of guesses. But I'm willing to play and spin the wheel with that one. But I mean,
Yeah.
like, so the Twin Cities, if we had the supercomputer and we had, I mean, legitimately growing up as a child in Fridley, we all thought if the bomb, if somebody, if Japan or Russia was going to send a bomb, they would target us first because of all the ordinances that we were creating, tons of ordinances in the Twin Cities in the 50s, Ford motor plant, World War II, all that kind of stuff. Where there's smoke, where there's fire. And let me tell you this, we had a company here, still here, called Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. You may know it better as 3M. Why they had to change their name? So you don't remember what they are? I can't really put them in with that. Oh, but it
Mhm.
just, ooh, it's just like,
Yeah.
oh, just that
Yeah.
ache in my tooth. Like, why did you have to change your name? Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. What are you guys going to? Oh, and you should know the channel, and I have this from good authority. The channel was being formed, and then one of the drills broke down. They're like, "Oh my god, we can't make the tunnel anymore." Well, they called up the good old United States, and guess what we had? We had a drill that was like 3 times bigger than your ass drill that nobody knew about, and then, like, we drilled the rest of this tunnel, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah. Yeah, you guys, all these tunnels, come on, people.
Yeah.
It's all going
Man,
on. It's all going on.
it's
It's juicy and
wild.
juicy." I know. Isn't it fun? And like,
Yeah.
how boring. You know what? You can sit there and get Doritos and watch a stupid Viking football game. But guess what? If you wake up to what's really going on, this is so much more exciting because
Yeah, man.
we're trying to put piece this stuff together, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
And you go down one rabbit hole and there's another 10 and
I
oh
know. Isn't
man.
it? It's
I've
fantastic. It's fun.
I've got to
Well,
ask you
it can get me a little bit in trouble, but other than
yeah,
that, yeah.
if we've still got time, if you're still okay to
Yeah,
go,
absolutely.
I've got to ask you more about the 20 and back because
Yeah. Mm.
that's fascinating as well. What can you remember of that?
I don't. I don't, but I know who and how I am. And it's not explainable as a girl because here's this little blonde girl. But, people call me MacGyver because I know how to do shit. I'm like, oh, like, oh, I'll fix that. I built a cabin all by myself, blah, blah, blah. Like, I know how to do things. Like in my book, I talk about, camping, this and that. I'm like, oh my God, it's all second nature to me. The fact that I could sit there and like harm none, like I'm a tree hugger. Like I sit and save ants. But the fact that I could sit there at 19 years old or 18 years old and look at this fat fucker in Brazil and think I could jump up and slit his throat, there's something
Mhm.
wrong about that. But also, I do know and I do remember being on the spaceships. Let's describe some of these spaceships and my 20 and back. Oh, and also when I was a child and almost all my life, black ops men would come up to me and they would tell me their stories. My dad told me his war stories. He never told anybody his war stories. He told me his war stories. Why would you tell a little girl? Why would vets tell a little blonde chick, a little blonde, sweet little girl, their war stories about death?
Mhm.
And what they went through, the things they never told their families. Why would they tell that to me? Why would veterans disclose things to me randomly? In my dad's backyard, there would be men, and I knew they were black ops. They said they were black ops, and they'd get shit faced. They'd drink like a case of beer and drive home, or 2 cases. I don't remember what it was, but it was over a case of beer. I'm like, that was normal. Black ops people, blah, blah, blah. My dad had a clam radio in the basement. A clam radio is classified radio that nobody has, and he could talk around the world. There was no tower. We didn't have any cables and stuff like that. All these weird things were happening. But the fact that of who and how I am and how I know, like, I have like this protocol, like, I grew up watching army films. Like, I felt better watching old World War II films. Like, I felt good.
Yes.
Like, okay, I felt a click with that. Like, no, this is good. Like,
In a
and
weird
also,
way, was it like a comfort seeing stuff like
yes,
that?
it's a comfort to me to watch war films growing up.
Mhm.
Also, I knew that you could give me a nickel and you could come back in 20 years and I would still have your nickel. I would have your back. 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 I would watch your back. I would take a bullet for you. And that's why it's hard for me to have many friends because I don't find many people that have that kind of loyalty going through my life. And that's
Mhm.
confounding to me that people can't be loyal. I'm like, I just don't understand it. Like, I love you, I have your back, and that doesn't come back. I'm like, that is shocking to me because I feel as if something's missing there. Like, no, I had that camaraderie. I've always worked with men. I love working with men. I love doing male oriented jobs or something like that because this is what we do. We work together. I slug you in the arm, like, get over it, and then we just do it. Like, that's that camaraderie. So there's like a lot of people ask me, "Whoa, would you like to do, like, go back and disclose that, like, do, hypnosis kind of a thing?" And I'm like, "No, like the things that I know, I'm good. I'm good. Like, I don't need to prove something to somebody. If it, and this just going to this disclosure thing really, really clicked with me the whole 20. It's like I suspected it my entire life. I knew it my entire life. But to hear somebody say it, it was like, "Oh, thank you for saying that." It's like, I know this. And
Mhm.
even my eldest son, he when he was a baby, he's like, "Well, the moon is hollow, Mars is hollow. We have military bases there." I'm like, "Shit, you're 5. Like, you shouldn't say that. You don't know that. You're like,
Nah,
why would you know
that's
that? You've never
wild.
seen this in a movie and stuff like that." So I think that's kind of also how he chose me as a mother and all this kind of stuff because I'm like, "Ooh, we've done some missions together, all that
Yeah.
kind of stuff." So there's a knowing, and there's a knowing as a woman of who and how I am that I, you know,
Mhm.
this.
Mhm. Yeah.
And this is not what most women are, and I have this capability. And I don't need to know, but also I think that vets and things like that, I think like they smell it on you. They know, like we all kind of know. Like I was not in the military legitimately here now as Dana. Um, but I mean, I know I've been on the super space programs because I do remember, and I just want to talk to you about that for a hot second, and in as to how I can talk to people and so that they can understand a bit about the space program. So after I got the rose and after I was done with the grays, and I, like I said before, I started to work with this skinny guy who was probably raping me, whatever. Anyway, um, this is back in the early 70s. And for those of you who are that old, we used to have like these old fashioned, old timey nightgowns. They'd be long sleeve and long dresses, and they had like a yoke with buttons. They're very old timey and very strange patterns on them and stuff like that. But I found myself standing out in the front yard. I could feel the dewy grass under my feet. I don't know, it's probably 2 in the morning or something like that. And I remember looking up the sky, and I know that gamers, because I've been told this by gamers, like they call it Legion. And I looked up and I'm hearing, and the whole sky is shaking and the earth is shaking and the sky rips open with a stable wormhole, because we do have a stable wormhole. It wasn't so much stable, but it's stable anyway. And that's a whole long story with the whole the zeppelins that are coming through. That's a whole nother thing. Put a pin in that. We could talk about that because there's zeppelins are coming through. That is like tourism right now. But anyway, so anyway, I saw the first big huge ass spacecraft coming in, and they had other an accompaniment of smaller spacecraft, but then uh us, I don't know if you want to say the US, the white hats, the allegiance. Are they good? I don't know, but they would just meet with them. It's kind of like, okay, kind of like meeting up with them. What they do is harvesting. They harvest souls at night. So at first I was just like witnessing these encounters, but then over time I was on those ships because like I said, that last year of me writing the book, when I said to God, okay, I'm opening up, what the hell you want in the book? And it started to show me some things. And I've seen Close Encounters for of the Third Kind a million times, but all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, at the end, like that do that asshole, that's one of that skinny guys. And of course, who comes out? Those little hybrid babies. And what is it? It's a big ass bay door. And I was on those ships and I would be standing at those bay doors while we were hovering over the earth and they were like picking up and harvesting souls and humans and all this kind of shit. But I'm going to tell you, it's not just that. Oh, wait, I'm going to tell you this. So later I asked about this sound and I was shown the didgeridoo and the Tibetan monks and, you know, the longhorns and any throat singing, that whole stuff, which
Hmm.
I thought was about meditation. No, that was them trying to open up the vortex in the sky, the harmonics to bring, oh, come back, Odin. You know, come back, sky gods, come back, wherever you are. That's what they're trying to do with those tools or sounds. It's not about meditating. They're trying to connect with the sky gods. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, whatever. you know, so,
Wow.
you know,
Yeah.
that's what that's all about. Yeah,
Interesting.
so but then it was on water. So literally there was a movie on Netflix or a show called Three Body Problem. And you know, so I posted on Facebook recently about the water harvesting. But when it's the trilateral, it's always like the three alphabet stuff, la 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 la. And they're on these ships. You can kind of understand the insignias. You kind of know, okay, these are Earth people, these are not Earth people. You know what the insignias mean, la 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 la. But when they're on the water, it's very much rushing. They're big ass huge ships and they're going very fast and they're churning. And a lot of like dignitaries come on and off and all this kind of stuff. See, this is where I could get in trouble for talking about this stuff. Anyway, so I'm watching Three Body Problem, and that triggered me because there was one scene where they were on this ship and they were going through the canal. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Because I remember walking through one of the lunchrooms on one of these ships. It was in the Panama Canal of one of these missions that we were doing. So I don't know what's going on in the Panama Canal Space wise, militia wise, trilateral wise, what's going on there, what the thing is. But I'm like, oh snap, yeah, I remember that. But I also am at airports. I'm at, like, hey, see me, like, I'll be at this airport on Thursday or whatever, but I'm at airports sometime watching airplanes, different aircraft coming on and off, which brings me back to the whole when the Chinese had that stupid balloon that was coming around a couple of years ago, about 2, 3 years ago, that
Hmm.
stupid air balloon, blah, blah, blah. Well, that was kind of like a false flag boopity boop because if you notice, see, I always notice what's going on in the news. Like I have this weird spooky relation to the news. Anyway, so legitimately they have these zeppelins that are coming in and out. They're coming in and out from this a stable wormhole that I was talking about before where the ships are coming through, but it really is kind of a tourism thing. It's tourism, but it's also they do dignitary things. But they said to us humans, they put out these news reports like, oh, you're going to see these zeppelins up in the air. They're for satellite purposes and all these other purposes. Don't pay any attention to them.
Hmm.
Bullshit. Those are freaking aliens, people. And they're here for tourism. They're here so that they can legitimately just be here, and their dignitaries go up and down. They're just, it's their bus. You know what I mean? So
Interesting.
that is not that is, and Tartaria, whatever. Yes.
Yeah.
So that Tartaria, they took off of here because that man, you can't make money off of that shit if we have free energy, right? So they took it off planet. So it's also one of the other entangled lands that we have that is also doing these zeppelins. It's part of this Tartarian entanglement. And I know that might sound weird, but I've been there, I've seen it, and that's what's going on. So we do have this relationship. Maybe they'll disclose that. I highly doubt it because it's way more easier to control us and keep us enslaved here and keep us impoverished. And that is what we're all enjoying right now.
Mhm.
So,
Wow.
mm.
You're blowing my mind here. uh, when you've got
Okay.
these memories of being on
Yeah.
the ships,
Yeah.
of being in other, would you say other dimensions or other
Right. Yes
realms?
and no. No, they are and they're not. Like, so when I'm on these other ships, you could say it's another dimension. It's kind of also a little bit of a different frequency. I'm also going to tell you that, oh, everybody's like, la la la, aliens. I'm like, okay, number one. So I'm not quite sure. Gray aliens, I do believe, have to have a certain type of frequency to uh, be here. Think about how we visit the ocean. We have to have scuba gear. We need to have certain things in order to visit that realm. My personal belief system is that the gray aliens or any one types of the grays, you can say gray, but like gray is saying a dog, they look different and they shapeshift. La la la. So like that's a whole big thing. But I think they need a certain type of vibration because that's their environment. They can't maintain in a large scale. They can probably do it in a house, this or that, these vibrational energies for very long. So I don't think they're going to have a job like in that TV show V or this or that. They're not going to be working at UPS next to you. They're not going to be at Domino's or, Pret a Manger or any of these kinds of things because they have to have a vibrational frequency and it's hard for them to hold that. It also is but I'm curious about it because I also feel like that vibration may or not be what knocks us out. That's debatable. I'm not quite sure. Again, I have more questions than I have answers, but I just know every time I've encountered any of these beings, it's a high vibrational frequency. Most people cannot handle it, which is why I think most people don't remember, don't wake up, all these kinds of things, you know. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
Did you ever talk to your mum about this? About your dad? And
No. So I didn't know. We knew that my dad traveled for work, especially when I was younger, these kinds of things until he got fired or quit, la la la. But it wasn't until they almost passed away. So it was probably, I know my dad was still alive. He died in 2010. So I think 29 or something like that. Um, I asked them if they knew anything about aliens or had ever been visited, and they're like, no, no, no. They had shocked looks on their faces. So to me, I'm like, the looks on their faces, either they were still holding up the knowledge that they knew. So, okay, CIA, they didn't say shit, okay? Thank you for the file. They didn't say anything, and or they were neuralized. Because that MIB movie,
Hmm.
I know somebody that knows the writer and stuff like that. That shit's real, people, okay? That
Interesting.
shit's real. I know from One Away that that is real, and they either neuralized my dad and my sister freaking neuralized her. She's like, "No, you told me about it." I'm like, okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So they do. They just boop. I mean, think about it. When you watch TV, how neuralized are you? Like most of us go offline. Like, I would love to talk to you about that whole thing with the Holy Roman Empire, which is still in charge, which is in charge by the reptilians, and Britannia, which is also so the Holy Roman Empire, that's the religious reptilians, and then the money reptilians is that's Britannia. So, you all know
Hmm.
about that, right?
Hmm.
So
That's a,
anyway,
that's
I
another
do.
rabbit hole.
I know. Like, you gotta have me back on because I mean, I
A
don't mean like
hundred
everybody's like
percent.
probably like heating up their chili for the 20th time, but like we have so much more to talk about. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Because like we can go into the whole rabbit hole of who's in charge, why are they in charge, and what they're doing. Because I can talk all day long about all that stuff too.
You,
I can talk about trees and how the planet's alive. Like I could talk about
well,
I met an actual I'm in my book. I met this crystal skull out in deep, deep space. I mean, that's a huge story. And I didn't understand what the hell it was until recently. Oh my God, I met an organic AI because artificial intelligence has always been around, people. It's been around since God. It's just it's just coming to us now, and we think it's a new thing. It's not a new thing. Artificial intelligence, the intelligence that cannot create because we are creators. And if I'm going to wrap it up kind of for the night, we are creators. We are creation. Women are the portals, and we come in as water astronauts into this realm, and then we breathe air and all this kind of stuff. And like, it's kind of mind blowing if you think about it, but we can create. This is why they need our thought forms. This is why they need to mold us through the media into thinking what they want us to think so that they can get their dystopian future and not the green Gaia future of whole holy humans. Well, we're kind of actually aliens, but where we are part of the still the divine spark, because they're trying to take away our divine spark by
mhm.
here we are with our cell phones, and they're going to integrate us, and then we become the Borg,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we are
And
not
we can
divine
see that
creators.
happening. We can see that happening already with
Yes,
chips and,
yes,
talking about putting chips inside you and, you know,
I already had one.
yeah, yeah.
I
But I
know
mean, it's becoming a thing with AI where we seem to be becoming a part of our technology. Like
exactly.
our phones are going to be in our head, pretty much.
Right. And then we're all signing up for it though.
Hmm.
But it's happening faster and faster and faster. And it's happening faster than we can actually object to or agree to.
Yes, because we
We're
don't really
not,
know. Yeah,
yeah, we don't really know. We're like, oh, that sounds good. I can Google it. Because,
yeah.
like, if you watch, like, when Trump got shot, you know damn well those sunglasses all were Google glasses, and they're all like, and
Hmm.
the militaries had um legitimately eye implants. The militaries had those for 20 freaking years, people. If you wake up and read the news, they talk about I've been reading the news since I was a baby because I've been watching, and I've read and I've seen all of this stuff that I know about the implants. And I'm telling you, if 20 years ago they have eye implants that they're doing into the military, you know damn well 50 years earlier they were doing it,
Hmm.
because we aren't disclosed. They don't tell us crap until it's like old school news.
Hmm.
So there's so much crap going on in this planet that we need to wake up to. Because I mean, if the new temples are the movies and stuff like that, you think Marvel Comics is fascinating? Welcome to the planet Earth, man. Wake up, Harry Potter. We ship bigger than you. This is amazing.
100%. It's scary. It is wild, but yeah,
Yeah, it
it's
is.
definitely amazing. Yeah.
I know. Thank you for
Oh,
having me.
Dana, you've blown my mind tonight, and I would definitely love to
Aw.
have you back because there's a lot more.
Oh my God, I got so
100% we can
much
talk
more.
about.
I know, I got so much more.
You've
I
been
know.
very entertaining. It's been funny, but at the same time, you're
It's
talking
serious,
about
but it's
very
fun. I
serious
know.
stuff, and you've made it.
I know.
It's been great. Thank you.
I know. I know. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I love you. You're
Oh, it's a
amazing.
pleasure. It's a
I talked your
pleasure.
head off. And you know what? Typically, people are like, now, it's not polite to talk somebody's head off. And I
No,
know that because normally I'm a listener because I'm like, I don't want to hear my stories. I've been there, whatever. I'd rather hear somebody else's story.
no, this is
But
about you. This is your episode. So
I
yeah, I want to
know.
hear it.
Thank you, and I hope everybody enjoys it. But like legitimately, I'm telling you, I just want you to know, everybody, I come, I'm risking myself. It's hard for me to put myself out there. I don't want to do it. That's why I don't, use my last name or, talk about my kids like specifically. I don't
Mhm,
want them, I don't want it to be targeted, all these kinds of things. But this is disclosure. What I'm trying to do is for you guys, go out there and understand what's really going on because I think everybody suspects it.
mhm,
It's
for
and there's a lot
sure.
of spell casting on going on, and especially in the music and the entertainment and Hollywood and the spell casting. So if you understand that the powers that be, the negative people, are using their negative energy and their spell casting. And I'm sorry if you are a Christian or have any of these faiths, like your prayer, understand that these things are real and we need to stand in our power. And that's what I'm trying to do is empower other people so you can stand up as a forthright human being and choose and have your energy and be in your energy and use it. And it's okay. It is not sinful to do these things because they're using it against us and we need to push back and be sovereign people. We need to stand in our sovereignty. You get a lot of that in England, don't you? But anyway, so speaking to the crowd, but I'm telling you, it's all really true. And I know a lot of people think David Icke's probably a wacko, but I'm sorry. He is a bringer of the truth as well. I mean, take him or leave him
Mhm.
with a spot of tea. But I'm trying to tell you that there's a flood and there's a river coming, and there's a whole lot of the story that's yet to be exposed. But thank you so
Yeah.
much, Tom. Thank
Thank
you so
you
much.
so much. I'm going to be getting a book because I want to read it. And
Well, thank
can you
you.
tell the listeners where they can get your book and where they can find you?
Yeah, it should be. You should be able to find it on Amazon.com. In the UK, we have Barnes and Noble as well. I'd appreciate it. And I'm going to tell you this. This is a little secret. And this is like, I have a hard time accepting this because, I have these weird things. I'm going to tell you, gosh, like this is the power. The words are sigils. If we get into spell work, words are sigils and they're very powerful. The alphabet is sigils. We don't really understand and comprehend everything, but spelling is spells, blah 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 blah. I literally sat down when I wrote this book and I put my heart and my vibration and my grandmother's maiden name was Vibe, 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 whatever. But literally reading the words, you will hear my voice, but my voice will bring you to the vibrational level that will unlock things for you. So a lot of people have come to me and they said, "Oh, I started to read your book and my mother who has passed away came and visited me." One man said that a book showed up, a UFO book that he'd been missing for 10 years, and it showed up on a chair. These are people that message me things. So this is part of
Wow.
the gift that that I'm trying to give to other people about us being divine and whole holy humans is this magic that we have. And this book will unlock and help you unlock your divinity on that supernatural realm. And that is the word and the truth and the power, thought, word, and deed that I'm trying to bring to help everybody be whole, holy humans. I'm trying to fight back against this. We have to fight back, people. This is a holy, holy war, and I want us to win. I want us humans to win. I want my grandchildren to win. I want you to win. I want everybody to win against these things that prey on us and enslave us.
Mhm.
And that is from my heart. That is my message. So
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm going to be sharing the link in the show description so people can find you and your book easily.
Yeah.
Dana,
Thank you.
thank you so, so much. Let's do this again.
I can't
You
wait.
blew
I
my
would love to
mind
talk to
tonight,
you. Oh,
and
thank you.
I'm looking forward to talking more. Guys, if you've enjoyed the episode, share it where you can. It's a great way to support us. Come
Mm.
back soon. We get freaky. Thank you. Thank you so much. Dana, thank you
Thank
so
you. Good
much. Have a
night,
good night.
everybody, or good morning. Good night, Tommy.
Thank
Thank you
you
so
very
much.
much.
Bye-bye,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you.